So we are really happy to see everyone at the final of Odessa Open 2016. This final will be judged by Rafi, Ayal, Conrad, and myself. In open government, in this final we're going to have IRB. In opening opposition, we are here Bus. In closing government, great difference. And in closing opposition, Cinnamon and Sunamon. We wish all the teams good luck, and to open this debate, we invite the Prime Minister to the speech.
Thank you. So before I start, I'd like to give over speech to the head of our club who introduced me to this debate. This is Roleva. And to my beloved and great best teammate in the world, Debati. So I'm going to start. What the problem of this motion makes us speak about that? That sometimes to get a great goal, to get such a great goal as independence, state can commit some things we will regret in the future. And we think that as a state, we should admit these things and tell to the other people through teaching in history lectures, to depict it in cultural memorials, and to let the people know what is the real truth, what we consider as the moral wrongs. That's to be massive killings, some ethnic cleansings, and the stuff that could take a huge amount of people's lives. So, why do you think we should do such a step, should admit that we did wrong, and we should speak about it openly and clean and honestly to other people? Because we think they must know it, because the other people, we want them to trust us. And to get this trust, we should be open to the people and to let them know what was their real history and how we did get this independence, for them to know the price we paid for this. And if we even did wrong, for example, like in Yugoslavia and Serbia, about massive cleansings, we need them to let know that the way we did this was not just moral justified, and it was from this present point of view it was wrong, but the previous goal we had and the result we got is more worse, because now we can live in this independent country. We did it for you to have this future, and we think that reason them to know that is to trust, because if they trust us as a government, they are more likely to support us, to support our reforms, to support the government as a whole, and the population unites by this real history, by knowing it, and our population is not sure, but not definitely proud, but they know the price they paid, and they like to spread their values, this knowing to the other people, for not being sorry for that, because the final result that was worse. And we also would like to consider the case when we won't let them know, and it's like high probability that they will know from someone else, because of the open sources of information, they are accessible, and not considering actually that that information will be spoiled, and even if it is, we know them not for true information, as it was really in that times. And we also want them to not doubt our legitimacy, not doubt our our care of them, not out our limit our trust in them. Because if we let somebody else to tell our population about the wrong, they will feel sorry, and we don't want our people in the present time bear the burden of that lost that had passed, because past is past, past has passed, and the history is history, and we realize that nothing, no huge struggle, no huge war can carry on without casualties, and can carry on without unfair actions. So we want our population to get to know what is the real past, to trust us, to support our government as a whole, to support our laws and reforms we're gonna somehow provide for them. And we want that some case of someone else who they could get this information from someone else, spoiled or not, but not from us, because this undermines the adults in us. Please.
So history is complex and nobody really knows what is actually true and what is wrong. How can we manage to find out what is actually morally wrong in this situation?
Okay, I understand that we also couldn't make that exactly 100% exact information for sure, but we will provide them with most objective, with the information that is precisely true, and if there's something doubt, we also stress that it's not like an actually precise information, but it could be done, maybe not, like, because it is true, and we all we have, in all we possess, all information we possess, I think we can, all verified information, we can let people know. And that's why, and my teammate will explain you why it is so important for the people and for the state also to know their past and to know this information. So, at the government, we stand for the reasons of trusting and for uniting our population, for bearing the spirit of patriotism, for them to trust us wholly and to work for general welfare of our state, and to not undermine their trust in us, to not undermine their support, letting anyone else tell them. We think that state should admit and should deliver this information openly and honestly to their people. Thank you.
The honourable Prime Minister of the speech, and to open this debate from the side of opposition, we invite the leader of opposition to the stand.
Ladies and gentlemen, this debate is a very concrete one. This debate is about a certain political history, history policy that the state is using, either effectively or ineffectively. We believe that this solution is ineffective based on two key points that I'm going to show you, and more that Mateusz explains. First, how it's going to create backlash and division of the society by radicalization of right wing, and secondly, how it violates the role of the state in fulfilling social contract. But first, I will do some rebuttal in order to correct what has already been stated here. So basically, team government comes out and says, we are going to show people ethnic cleansing at memorials, at schools, expose children to images of people being killed, and then they will trust us as a state because we show them truth. Well, firstly, this is going to create a moral backlash because people are going to think, yes, I'm supporting by my taxes, by my sacrifice to the country as a soldier, by my patriotism to this country. This will happen during the history. They will feel ashamed because of it. And it will not be like this, that they will think, yes, I support the state because it did this all terrible things for me. No, I will be ashamed that I am a citizen of such country and that for me to be free, for me to lie on my couch on the sofa, some Jews needed to die because of my Nazi grandfather. So it's not like this is the price to pay. I'm going to be ashamed as a citizen, and my trust in the state will be highly undermined. What is more, this is not just reminding and giving information about it. No, this is highlighting. So giving extra exposure to certain elements that are not really in the context of the whole history. Because in order to understand why ethnic cleansing happens, why all the morally wrong things that we do during the national struggle for independence is that we need context of the whole war in order to understand them. And ladies and gentlemen, there is always going to be history written by somebody, either by winners, by losers, it does not matter who. This is just a historical policy that we are either going to focus on things that were good for our country, things that promote a positive image and positive traits of character in our citizens, and as such we have a better state, or we are going to promote things that they will be ashamed of and not be good citizens. But government seems to disagree.
What will they do if people ask you about the history? You can't refuse the history, you can't deny it.
I will just tell them how it was. I will not give extra exposure to that, and I will just explain that yes, I am wrong, but I don't need to highlight it. This is not the major event of the war. Like, I don't see how saying only about giving extra exposure to events that were not really major, so that highlighting them is going to help the society. Yeah. So first, what we believe is that how is it going to cause the radicalization of the society? Such policy shows that we undermine a part of an identity of a certain social group that is conservative, and that is all of the people that are connected with a certain state. Ladies and gentlemen, we live in a certain era where people are connected to the countries. We do not change countries only like corporations depending on lesser taxes. We just stick to one country because we feel part of it, because of our patriotism, because of our national identity. And when somebody comes to us and says, being of your nationality is connected with something very disgusting, very awful, and morally wrong, so that somebody shows us two things that are connected together. One thing that is really awful and morally wrong, that is like ethnic cleansing, and the other thing is the thing that we love, that is the banner of our country. We are going to stand against them and create such a backlash. These are not the people that will think, yes, we understand. No, they will be the people that will rationalize those actions, and in fact will radicalize even more, so that they are going to go against the state and such revision of history that directly undermines their identity, so that we would not really have that good supportion in the society. What is more is that our second point, because if we think that some of those people, or even other people, will understand, will think about it, will focus on that topic, not only say yes, it did not happen, that is not true, that was in a certain context, and completely reject our edition of history, we are going to have even worse consequences than the radicalization of these people. Why? Because then we have the credibility of the state undermined, and the state is a very important actor in this debate. Why? Because currently it is not the state as we see it today is not connected with national struggle of independence, because in the case of most countries it happened like over a century ago, and it's no longer the same state. The traditions are different, the morals are different. The only thing that connects us is this identity and tradition. So that by showing that maybe we were morally wrong in the past, we cut out from this tradition, and as such, our credibility as the state is undermined, and we as the state are important because we provide services for the people, because people need to trust that this state is going to survive, that my pension is going to come, my retirement pension is going to come if I'm going to be ill or old, like something will happen. And without this national identity, without this culture, without this trust that, yes, I believe that if I'm going to be a good Ukrainian government will reward me in the future, I am less likely to sacrifice for this country. Sacrifice, for example, through wars, through defending my country, increasing security, but also by paying taxes, or by by choosing producers from my country to support the economy and help to develop my country, so that I will create more jobs in the future on the market, and that my market will be bigger. So as such, in the role of the state becomes partially dissolved because of people not being able to sacrifice for the country. What is more is that we believe that by exposing such things as that are really morally wrong, we also kind of make a judgment that we are not really allowed to make, because those people sacrificed their morals, sacrificed their ideals in order to be effective in constructing a certain state. And as such, we cannot judge these actions without criticizing the state first, because for us as a state, it is very important to promote only a policy that says that even if this would happen, that is really morally wrong, we as the state give you so many benefits that it is important to keep that up. By exposing the costs, we really forget about the benefits as a society. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your proposition to the speech, and to continue the case of the government, we invite Deputy Prime Minister to the stand.
In my speech, I will be able to explain to you why the truth is really important in our society and why it really matters for us to remember our flaws and so on and so forth. But first of all, some points of the rebuttal. It is unbelievable for us to hear whatever the opposition is saying, that a person could be ashamed of their freedom and independency. We believe that if this independency was received through the struggle, and we believe in most cases there is no independency war that happened without the struggle, we believe that this is justifiable. In this case, it is better for a government that is a successor of that government that did a morally wrong thing to explain to people why they did so and what is the justification to that act. So in my speech, I will try to explain, and I think that it's all connected to rebut the case of the opposition. First of all, narrative of government admitting the moral art. People tend to understand the issue. People tend to understand that when we struggle, when we are fighting for our independence, the casualties are inevitable. And we understand that in this act of saying that we do admit the crime that we did, and explaining to our citizens why this happened, people generally are ready to forgive if the benefits of that struggle sacrifice is bigger for us, especially the independency. And why are we going to benefit from that? Because without independency, people cannot effectively suffice. Why? Because they have been put in a dire condition that forced them to change that whole system. And we believe that generally there must be the reason for people to be so angry and impatient and hungry for that independency. Like in the example of Serbia, we found it interesting, and we found that independency was not equal for us because the political regime supported the majority and suppressed the minority. In Romania, the authoritarian regime made us hate this person, the president Ceausescu, and we killed him in order to receive some bigger benefit for the whole nation. And we believe if it is the case of the independency, we believe that we need to talk about it and explain to people why, especially our children. Why schools and memorials? Why we are saying that we need to deliver this message specifically to children, and why we need to show them the bloody pictures and to show them the justification to that act for killing or genocide and so on and so forth. We believe that children is the future of our nation, and they must know the price for freedom and independency, first of all, but moreover, we want to send the message that taking somebody's independency in this world, in this future time, is bloody and might cause a lot of death. We want to send them the message that our independency was a really pricey thing, and you don't want to take this independency from anyone else. Moreover, the opposition is saying that it's going to harm children and harm people in total, and making them hating their country more. But we disagree with that, because if somebody approached me and asked me about that crime that I could not deny the history, I will be able to explain it from historical perspective, why my nation did like that, and why my nation will never do it in the way it did again. So we are feeling that for all that benefits, we are actually we are in need to explain why those actions were taken. We understand that we will never be able to change or wipe out history, and it's better for us as the successor of the country or the government to explain the wrongs that we did. Because, for example, if somebody else outside of the country is going to state it in a different way, or somebody who is not willing to live in this country explain it in a different way, we will never be able to see these discrepancies in the history. So, we do believe that there must be an explanation. And it is so important for government to be transparent and open about it. We believe that the truth that we are delivering with admitting the crime is something that supports our value of freedom to request, freedom of knowledge, something that we did wrong. For example, in the USSR, everybody understands that people are flawed. The government of each generation, of each historical part, they are flawed as well, because they are made of people. And they tend to understand that there is no possibility for government to be absolutely perfect. They're going to make some mistakes, they're going to do some mistakes, and if the people are not going to know about that, people are going to start to question that government and question their credibility and reliancy if we do not expose them to the things that we did wrong. The same thing could be applied to any other government system that is currently in the democratic states. For example, if the Ukraine is saying that we did something good, but are not telling about the real stuff and maybe the things that casualties happen in Donetsk or Donbass, people would not really believe them, because they know that the war is causing some problems. And the same thing applies to here. We cannot deny the thing that we did wrong, but we can explain to our people why at that particular point of time it was more beneficial for us to act like that. So, we do understand that morally wrong things are something that are generally unaccepted. And that is the answer to the first opposition question. What is the morally wrong thing to do? Well, that is the general postulates that harms other people, that make them die. And we cannot, in the case, this is an extreme case where we are fighting for our independence, we cannot say that we did not do it. And if the people are exposed to that historical fact that we did kill somebody, or we did kill some majority part or minority part, we need to explain to them and justify our acts, just like in the criminal court. If somebody's standing in between of you, you need to take the responsibility for the acts you did before. And if history is not changeable, the future is changeable. And we believe that it's going to give more benefits than it's going to give harms. So, considering that, we believe that children are those that's going to take upon us when we're going to go. And we need to teach them the values that are really important for us. Among them, independence is inevitable, because like the opening government said, they always identify themselves within some country. They will not be ashamed of the fact that they needed to struggle for that independence. And we believe that there is nothing more proudful that a citizen of a one country can do than be proud of their independence and freedom and the privileges and rights that they can get from it. And even if that struggle, like consider the alternative that would happen to those people in Serbia and Romania, that would still be bad things for all majority of people. There would still be questions for the authorities, and the questions that arise this situation would still be open. So for these reasons, I'm so proud to propose.
Thank you, Deputy President, for his speech, and we invite the Deputy Leader for the opposition to speak.
Nowadays, and we have to, and we're going to prove you why we have to show and why we have to empathize on that things which we've done as the country while we were struggling for independence. But firstly, let's speak about rebuttal, and then we give you our constructive points. Firstly, all these things about the patriotism and the things which we have to glorify in our schools, dear Mr. bench of judges, we strongly believe that the patriot is that people who knows pros and cons about his history, who knows what they did bad and what they did good, but still loves their country. We still have a lot of German people who knows what their country did in the World War II, but they are still patriots, they are still not ashamed of their country, and they still love it. Secondly, usage of the bad history of some country, you will see that our constructive points and so on. So let's move on to the constructive points. What we're going to say now, we're going to say the real situation, real cases in the life, when the countries which are not emphasizes on the bad things which they did in the struggling for the independence, and what it leaded in the real life. The last example and the last news between the Polish and Ukrainian relations. Basically, we have a situation where Ukraine is not emphasizing on what the Ukrainian rebellion army did in the 1930s, when we call it Volyn massacre. What we have right now we have the situation when Ukraine and Poland basically are developing together. We basically have the real plans of making the good integrational processes on the center of Europe, but this particular question of history can break these big projects of integration. Just because Ukrainians are not telling about this. The best way how to solve it was to tell Ukrainian people from the government in the schools that yes guys, we were fighting for independence. Yes, we had the situation with Poland, but yes, we did this situation. And now, on this particular point, we could just move on and forget about it. We could say to Poland, yes, we understand what we did. Yes, please.
Don't you think that's going to lead to people remembering Second World War not as examples of cooperation between Poland and Ukraine, but instead as a division and disgusting things that happened during Volyn massacre?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And you know why? Because the whole logic of the opposition, how we see, is that the government proposes to show only the bad things, but not. We are going to glorify the good things too. We're going to show you why you have to be proud of your nation and proud of your people. But also, please remember that those people did something wrong, and you have to understand and realize it. So, just keeping on with the Ukrainian-Polish relations. From other points of view, we have the similar situation from what Polish did in Ukraine and the raids of Armia Krajova. But still, this point can be solved only when we all both understand what wrong we did from one side of history, from the other side of history. And we're gonna solve this problem in this way. Another point, what was touched by our colleagues from the first government, is the manipulation of the history by other side. Nowadays, situation between Russian and Ukrainian relations also had the historical background. Just because we were not telling about the bad things what this Ukrainian rebellion army did, Russian Federation have a tool right now to manipulate with this history and somehow influence on the one part of the citizens of Ukraine. Right now, because of usage of this tool, they had a big influence on the citizens of the eastern Ukraine. Just because we were not empathizing people, yes, Ukrainian rebellion army, they are heroes for struggling for independence, but still there were some things which we did bad. Some things when they violated some rules and some rights of people who were living in the territory of Ukraine. But if Ukrainian citizens could realize and know the real situation about their things, what they did, they wouldn't be manipulated so like it's going on right now. Another point, dear judges, it is what's going on after all. Look. We, as Ukrainian government, was silent about such heroes as Stefan Bandera. We were telling that he is purely hero, and a lot of people and a lot of classes in our population right now decided that they are pure hero without forgetting about what he did wrong. Nowadays, a lot of radical organizations appeared in the territory of our country. Правый сектор, UNAUNSO, another one, just because in their philosophy is absolutely dangerous for Ukrainian relations inside of the European Union, for Ukrainians inside of our own country. And the only one argument why it's appeared nowadays, because those people who entered these organizations, they didn't know what this guy did in reality. Yes.
We don't don't say you don't talk about it. We say we shouldn't emphasize. You should emphasize things you did good, not things you did bad.
In this particular case, we have to emphasize what we did bad to stop the radicalization of these young people inside of the society. Just because to stop their radicalization and not to provoke it in the future. So, dear ladies and gentlemen, we strongly believe that government is not glorifying and emphasizing only bad things in our history. We are emphasizing both of the sides. But we want the clarification of clear history to show what we did good, what we did bad. We showed you, dear Bachelor speakers, that this could lead to the big problems in nowadays history, nowadays relations right now. Like it's going on with Ukraine and Poland right now, which are breaking our relations. And we're showing you how our enemies from other countries can use that what we don't really know our history to manipulate our own people. Moreover, we are showing you that the importance of telling truth in our country is stopping the radicalization of part of our society, part of our inhabitants, and that's how we strongly believe that we have to stay on the position of clarifying and the honesty. So that's why we're back here to propose. Thank you.
Thank you, member, for the argument speech, and we invite the member for the opposition to speech.
So I would like to just say that yes, we are not saying that we should not remember our history, but I'm going to explain to you why highlighting the bad things in your times of struggle and trying to build your country can this feel very bad for these countries that have independence nowadays and who are actually celebrating their Independence Day and building their nation, United Nations, as a one country through different stories and through different words that define them as a one country that still wants to be independent and stay independent. So what I want to tell you first is that some of these countries we are actually talking about, like I'm going to speak now about Soviet Union, Latvia and Finland. If we take an example of, let's say, Estonia or Latvia, you actually have in those countries people living there from these kind of countries that they see as offenders. So if we would speak about Estonia and Latvia, you have a huge party of the people who are Russian descendants, and then you have the people who have been living there longer. After they got their independence, I would just like to ask that, is it really very intelligent to highlight all the wrongs that has been happening in the past? Because that's actually made a conflict that might still somehow be in the minds of the people get worse, and it doesn't help them to unite as a one country who have people from different backgrounds but who still have the same nationality and who want to build a country together. So, pretty much what I'm trying to say here is, like we have, like in Finland, we have these words how we define our country. We say that we have sisu, that means that we actually go through everything just to stay independent. We will go through everything just to make sure that things are good. After we got our independence, it wasn't easy for Finland to be united. We actually had a civil war that was against, that kind of treated our independence. We had people from other side who wanted to be part of the communist Russia, which turned out to be Soviet Union. After you have that kind of civil war, it's very difficult to unite your country. You might still have veterans in that country who remember what happened. You still might have a lot of anger. And yes, while we think that it's very good to actually go through these things, we don't think that highlighting the wrongs that have been happening is a good way to build a nation, and is a good way to build it's a good way to build how they are united together. So pretty much what you want to do as a country, you want people feel that they are part of this same nation. They feel that there is something that makes them stay together, and for that you need some positive stories, you need some positive images. And while it's good to know the bad things that have happened, and while it's good to know that when you fight for your independence, naturally it's going to be bloody, it's a fight for independence. It's usually very important for people to have their right to rule in their own country and make the decisions and those kind of things. So yes, then you do many things, pretty much everything, to stay independent. So after this happens, you start to build your country, and because we are speaking about countries that has gained their independence, they might actually be quite young countries, so they are still might be building their image, they might still be thinking about what happened, and for that they actually also need positive kind of things to remember. They need to be able to celebrate their Independence Day as a good thing. They need to be able to remember that what happened, even if it was gory and bloody, in the end it was for them to be independent, which is important.
Okay, so why do we always disprove the fact that if this person accepts to live in that country, it means that this person is really to accept the plus and minuses of that history. And that is the reason why Baltic states as the mandatory exam for the history in order to get the citizenship. So your examples are completely wrong.
No, actually we think it's quite standing, like they are still being the nation shows they have people from different backgrounds, they too need to be able to like go on as a one country, and it's not going to work if you are just highlighting always what the other side did or what one side did or that side did. You should be able to talk about those things, but it shouldn't be a tool to make some people in that country to suffer about what the country that their parents might be originating from did someday, because we are here talking about states that did those things. We are not talking about the people, and this is actually affecting the people. Like for example, Finland, when they wanted to be independent, they did have some allies, like they had allies with Nazis, and we still have veterans that have been like in those wars, and everyone in Finland knows that fact. We know that we did those things, and we had this ally. But the thing is that while we know that we have the ally with Nazis, we also know that nobody actually connects with that point. We know that the part, okay, so I'm trying to say this. So we were like allies with Nazis to keep our independence because we were afraid of Russia. We needed some big nation to be backing us and helping us in the fight. After Finland got in a really good place, obviously they cut down the ties with Nazis and yeah, get off that. But the thing is that we still have veterans that were like part of those wars. They don't connect. What they did was from Finland. They were fighting there for the independence of Finland. If they were some like German people with their, I'm not saying that German are bad, I'm just saying that they don't identify with that thing. And should we in Finland really have statues of that we had some Nazis there and like Belgian veterans that what you did might not have been good because your politicians made decisions that you don't like.
Speech and do some other debate side of the government to invite government.
that being silent of some bad things, some stains in history, can unite people, can make them some more connected, can make them more patriotic. But we also claim that being silent about bad things, being silent about some bad pages of our history, can also reunite people, reunite two different nations, as well as make a break inside one nation. And that is our case, the case of our team, and that is what was my teammate talking about. Actually, my teammate gave a great example of Polish and Ukrainian relations, and while the opening government gave us a lot of improvements, a lot of arguments why we can nowadays learn our people about both good and bad things, learn our children in schools about both bad and good things, then our team proved why, what harmful actually results can be shown, can occur while being silent about those bad things and while not learning history in proper way. So coming back to the Polish-Ukrainian relations, nowadays we see the situation when a development of two countries with quite a similar history of development, with quite similar political and cultural history, can be just broken because of non-clarification of this history, which was going on in two parallel ways, and in one particular moment these two histories just met and happened what happened actually, and this happened what happened should be clarified, and this and all these actions of both sides, Ukrainian as Polish, should be clarified, because nowadays we are in the risk of breaking their relations, these international relations with this country. On the other hand, my teammate has shown you how this non-clarification can be manipulated of our enemies, can be manipulated of the other countries, which can show to our citizens, to our people, the way of history which is convenient to them, actually. And the great example is nowadays Ukrainian-Russian relations, when Russia influences on our citizens, on one part of our citizens, particularly citizens of eastern Ukraine, in the way they want to do this, in the way which is convenient for them. Because nowadays they are telling their people, they are telling on their media, they are telling on their news everywhere that there is no Russian troops in Ukraine, and that our people are just fighting against each other because of different ideologies, because of different ways of looking of our history. And in this way we can see as history is just rewritten in the way not convenient for our country, and in the way which caused actually a war, and everybody of us know actually the truth and knows the real state. So actually and in some way what is the most important and what is the saddest, that actually there is a break in our society. There is a break of different ideologies, of different ways of looking to the history. As also was said by teammate, there is nowadays a group of people in our society that think in a very radical, in a very categorical way. Some layers, some groups of society think that our nation is the best on the world, and what is more, all the other nations are enemies. And all the other nations have to be, I don't know, that our country is only for our people, and that only our people have the right to live in this country, and so on and so on. So in this way, we was not giving the right way to understand our history, was not giving both good and bad sides of their ideology, of the ideology they believe in. We provoke them to some kind of violence. We occupy our people with some stereotypes, with some kind of, I don't know, with some kind of actually stereotypes to other nations, with some kind of giving more privileges to our nations maybe than we should have, maybe than even when it deserve. And in this way, we say that giving them the right way of seeing the history, we are not lacking of patriots inside our country. We are not lacking the quality of patriots, and what is the most important, we are not lacking the quality of these patriots, because the patriot is a person who knows pros and cons, both pros and cons of his country, or both good and bad pages of history of his country, and still loves it, and still wants to fight for it, and still wants to fight for its independence, for its, I don't know, right to be the powerful country in the world, and so on and so on. So, dear ladies and gentlemen, summing up our two speeches and summing up the case of our team, we strongly believe that clarifying the history and giving our people the right way to understand and to see our history will only make positive results, and will make this result not only nowadays, but for our children, for our grandchildren, because they will not do the same mistakes that were done in the past. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you for your speech, and we invite opposition leaders. Thank you.
Okay, greetings to Finland and to my family and everybody. I'm sorry, I have so many stupid things to say, so I'm going to move to the other side so that I don't embarrass myself on the internet. Alright, the summary from the opposition side is that first I'm going to talk about why is identity an important thing for the country, and secondly, why we think that emphasizing good sides is better than emphasizing bad, good sides in our history or in our identity is more important than emphasizing the bad things, and how the emphasizing the bad things actually going to lead to bad things. But few clarifications first. Okay, the opening government says that nations need to do bad things, like morally bad things, when they fight for their independence. And then they don't clearly say what is a morally bad thing, and what is their idea of morally bad thing is that it's something that we just point out and then we justify it. If you can justify a morally bad thing, like it was actually a good thing, it's not really a morally bad thing. I can tell you, war, if you are in a war, you fight against an enemy and you kill these enemies there, it's a good thing because you defend yourself and you defend your country, otherwise they will kill you. But if after the war you start massacring the people there, massacring the people on the other side, that's a morally bad thing. It's completely unnecessary for your independence. It's completely unnecessary to kill the traitors in your country, the people, for example in Finland. The Reds who wanted Finland to join the Soviet Union. After the Civil War, many of them were sent to the concentration camps, and they were killed there only because they were Reds and they lost the war. These kind of things are morally wrong, and we don't want to highlight them because we think that they are not part of the national identity. They are part of the history. We should not hide the history, but we should emphasize what makes us who we are. Okay, now let's talk about identity. What is an identity? Identity answers the questions who we are, who am I? Okay. In Finland we have the concept sisu, which is part of our team name. Okay, it means that we have guts. We do whatever we want to to achieve what we want to do or to defend our country, and that's one of the reasons, I mean, what we think that united us and helped us in the Second World War so that we kept our independence. In France, their values is brotherhood, liberty, equality. It's the things that defines their people there. It's not maybe, it doesn't maybe have anything to do with the independence in the France in the first place, but it's the values that define the people there. Some other nations may have like humility or like helping the poor people, these kind of values. This is what we want to emphasize when we talk about what kind of people we are. How do we do it? Okay. In our side of the house, we concentrate on the good things. We have people, authors who write about history of our country. They talk about, like, say some stories about history. Like, okay, there was this guy in this country. No, thank you. There was this guy in this country and he did some great things and he had a chance to do a bad thing, but no, he decided to do a different thing. He decided to do some great thing, a great thing that our nation, that the nation values. Okay. Why is this important? I mean, when we teach children these kind of stories or these kind of narratives, social forums, they are like connect them with other people who identify with the same things, but it also helps them values, like that they start trusting each other, okay, which means that, okay, if you trust other persons, it's more likely that you don't avoid taxes and you pay taxes in a well way. And secondly, you start working together with them. Many times, if you work together, let's say you work for a project, for example, some social program that helps poor people in this country, what good do you get to help these poor people? Not that much, okay? There may be some good reasons that there would be less criminality because people wouldn't have to do crimes, but also you do it because you think that, oh, they are one of us. Just like your family is part of your identity, but it's also the country. You want to help people near you, and we think that this kind of positive image, positive connection, united nation, united country is a very good identity thing. Yes?
Okay, please explain me in particular how you're going to showcase the historical struggle of independence of Serbia without only highlighting the best things, without showing the wrongdoings.
Oh, okay, sorry, I don't know the history of Serbia that well. I think Serbia was left after the Yugoslavia collapsed and there was this one nation left and all the other countries escaped it. I don't know if they fought for independence. It was just I don't know about the history, sorry. Okay. Now, the government tells some things that, okay, if we don't highlight the bad things, okay, they tell that we have to tell the truth, okay, highlighting some bad thing is not telling the truth, it's like highlighting something, okay, but what is the thing that they think what will happen is that somebody else will tell them what happened, and sort of now people don't trust the country. Okay, the thing is, on our side of the house, we will be open about history, okay? We will write all the facts to the history books, but during the independence things, we highlight who we are. We may highlight some great things that's that's gonna emphasize our values, but it's not. I mean, I don't see the link how someone else telling you something and now all of a sudden you don't trust it. You don't trust your identity. Compared to the situation where your school teaches your children that, okay, you fought with Nazis and we are Nazis and, okay, let's move to the extension, okay. My partner told about, first of all, how it's the positive things that we want to identify ourselves with, but second of all, why it's not the negative things. For example, the Finnish alliance with the Nazis during the Second World War. It was a fact, but the decision was made by the state, not by the people. It doesn't define the people living in the nation. Maybe not back then, because it was the decision made by the government, as an only mean, but not at least now. We don't see any connection between these things, and we don't want to highlight them. We don't want our veterans of war to be memorized because they fought with Nazis in this war. No, we want to highlight them because they wanted to defend their country and their borders to defend something that was important for them. And we think that bringing the identity through positive is more important than bringing them through their negative. Thank you very much.